There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no, which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. As you can see, I am Jaredless, so thank you for keeping me company. He's out making the world a better place right now, so have fun, Jared, and we will see him on and off over the next few weeks. So it's always disappointing not to have him here, especially with such a wet fart of a week to discuss. But I will see you through as best as I can the gloom and or doom that's been going on. It's been a pretty full week. I think you would notice if you've been paying attention. It's everything from the big awful bill getting passed to more infighting on the left. It's the whole spectrum seems to have been covered this week. So we'll walk through it a little bit, see what we get. Hopefully no tech problems, fingers crossed. When it's both of us, at least one person can kind of keep things carrying on. But when it's just one of us, sometimes it just goes completely sideways. So good vibes out here. Good vibes this week. Okay. So I can't start a little bit of good news. This is kind of an emerging thing. Well, let me clarify first. I always like to mention that if you enjoyed our theme song, that is courtesy of our own Mr. Mary Jared. So if you like that, he's very, very talented musician, if you didn't already know. So make sure you check out his music where all music is available. You can find his things. So you will be able to enjoy his masterful stylings. Very, very talented. In that same vein, I have been trying to remind myself to say that I have a book coming out, I should say, later this year. At the holiday season. It's a horror story. It's called The Big Bad Wolf. And it's different for me because I'm really not a horror fan. I like scary, but I don't like horror necessarily as it's traditionally described. But it mixes a lot of elements together. It's like a horror mystery story, so there's clues to follow about what's going on and try to figure out what's going on. So I will continue to try to remember to give updates about that. I just started a Substack and a side blurb on Tumblr to just talk about what the kind of things I've got going on, of course, about art and all kinds of stuff like that. And the art sales on my Redbubble help me keep my lights on in my house and keep me having a house. This lovely setup you have here is that. And of course, Jared also gets me money for any downloads of his music and things like that. So we don't have any sponsors on this show, and we have a very small audience at this time. So that's how we're making it happen. And me also being unemployed at the moment, thanks to AI, of course. My areas were the first to go. And you know that I'm always happy to talk about, complain about, AI taking over industries and that. So maybe we'll have some time for me to complain about AI before the hour is done. Shout out to the chat. Hello to Are You a Time Traveler 2, one of our devoted viewers. But yeah, what I was going to say is just before I came on air, I read a tweet from Christian Smalls, who you may know as being the first person to really organize union activity, a union in Staten Island for Amazon. And that's really kind of his claim to fame. He has, a good leadership scenario that he worked on and was able to get those people organized and formed a labor. And there was recently a documentary about his work. I just watched it, but I forget the name of it is currently escaping me. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. And also, I don't. When I'm by myself, I tend not to share my screen because that seems to, my computer gets haunted about it. It doesn't like it. So you just have to take my word for it. You can look him up if you're not already following him. You should be. But the reason I bring it up is because, and the documentary was good too, by the way. The coolest thing I think I've ever seen in my life is like when you're used to seeing things about like, cookouts and stuff, like when you're organizing for a thing, like come have a hot dog or whatever. But because they were in I believe it was New York State, but they, they were giving out free weed, like it's little gifts. And like for me, like in a dry state of Indiana, that's just like, oh my God, mind blowing. So I thought that was just like you're just not used to seeing that kind of stuff. It's my stars kind of a situation, right? I feel so left out of it, but I thought like, oh my God, that's so great. Like, and in the documentary, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it shed a light on how even if you're working within an organization, everybody's got their own ideas. Everybody wants to be the leader. Everybody wants to be the boss. Which you may have experienced by being somebody who is on the left. And I'll get into that a little bit later because there's a little bit more, to that. But to stay on topic here, this part, he put out a tweet earlier today, about 2 hours ago, that said that he was going to be on the next Freedom Flotilla to Gaza. I don't have any reason to doubt that that's true. So all I'm going off of is a tweet, but it did attract a lot of attention so far, and I think we're all waiting for more details as far as that goes. But we definitely want to shout that out and say thank you to him and to everyone who's going to be mounting this next trip. We know that the first one went pretty much the way we thought that it would go. At least no one was killed. Which was very much in the realm of possibilities because, as we know, Israel does not care about its view on the world stage. That's never been, the reputation on the world stage has never been part of the issue. They just really want to control the narrative, and that's where we saw, and we talked about this last week, the whole BBC pushback and UK pushback and America pushback against the duo Bob Villain because they did a chant. Oh no, don't do that. Chant, genocide. I guess they're not the same. Anyways, that's going on, and that's still kind of going on because what's so funny about that whole situation is they tried to censor him, or them. It's kind of like an out front person, so you see something more to like. You don't necessarily realize it's more than one person, but they tried to censor them, didn't work. As per usual, that kind of thing doesn't work. Their sales are skyrocketing. Their Google searches are skyrocketing. People are making fan art at this point. So it didn't work, and it won't work. And it's not like they're the only ones to come out and use their platform for good. The Glastonbury took place last week, and that's where this all happened. And last weekend or the weekend before, and that's when this all happened. Is this big dust up because we know that the rap group, the Irish rap group Kneecap, had been coming out saying things, but there were several other groups that have used their platform for this, and that movement is growing. So good on them, because obviously the powers that be are trying to make consequences for them, but the people have spoken and they are sticking with them. And I think that's pretty great. So we're going to see, hopefully, another maybe more successful flotilla situation. At least the idea is that it's going to keep going. And that's what's good. Like, it's just going to keep happening. And I think any way that people who are able to can contribute to knocking down those walls and breaking down those barriers and fraying the relationship and exposing them for what they are to the world who may not only watches their nightly news. That's really great. So good on him, good on them, and I think we're all gonna follow that story and hope to get more information about it. While I am mentioning Israel, this is something else that's been happening this week. Or, well, actually, it's been happening for a while, but the news of it's really just been coming out over the last couple of weeks. And I have it kind of some notes on the side of my screen where I can see some things that I liked and saved back. But so I could tell you about them, but I'm not going to share it because I don't want to bow everything up here 10 minutes into the show. But I had been hearing about this a little bit, and I'm really not surprised at all, given the history of the Zionist movement from all of time, where they ultimately tried and failed to claim several other places of occupied land before ultimately settling on Palestine. And that is that now, as we saw when Iran started to push back against them, and some of the other nearby countries started to resist. The Israelis were just, because they can and they have the opportunity to do so, just fleeing the country, just flooding the airports, just taking off, just getting the fuck out, right? Because they can. So what's happening now is the people who are able to kind of like these people, because once again, don't forget, it's a very wealthy settler colony. It's I almost said nation, but it's not a nation, not whatsoever at all. It's a settler colony. They're colonizers, with a lot of wealth, a lot of expendable wealth, and the people, the citizens there are now starting to branch out and look for other places. And apparently, it's happening in Cyprus. There are now local people of Cyprus are now fearing that they're trying to turn it into a Israel 2.0 because of all the reasons, basically. But a lot of people are buying land and property in Cyprus. So there is a lot of, let's say, alarm being raised at this time about what that means and what that's going to mean. So that's something to keep your eye on in the coming times. I don't know exactly, they're going to pick somewhere else ultimately, probably, and everywhere basically is occupied. Yeah, it's going to be kind of hard at this stage to find somewhere unoccupied where you could do what you want and not have to have any consequences for it or any kind of oversight. And that was sort of the appeal of Palestine. It was very kind of unknown to the rest of the world at the time, and because they also looked in places in Africa and things like this. So they're obviously not going to go and want to, we're going to go out and take some desert space in America or something like that. No, they would be so visible. Even though America at this point is the nature of the relationship is getting more confusing all the time, because they couldn't do anything without American money, and Americans are banking on having that stronghold in the Middle East. And if these people are exodusing the Middle East for another location, then they lose that stronghold. So it's very, very tangled, very, very upsetting. Hopefully the people of Cyprus, maybe they can pass some legislations or something like that to keep this kind of thing from overrunning their occupied space. I think that's really important. So that's something to keep your eye on. So a couple of stories there to keep on your radar as they develop. Now, as we know, we kind of started out with on a bad note, which was the bill, the big bullshit bill was passed, and also known as the Big Beautiful Bill, and obviously that's Trump's spearhead situation here. But it's really this is the time when you're hearing from a lot of liberals being like, the Democrats would have never. In the meantime, that they're literally pulling out every stop imaginable to and openly trying to stop Zohran Mamdani from advancing any further. They've resorted to pulling up old tweets and things from his college days. Like, give me a fucking break at this point. Like, cry me a river. I don't care. It's not going to work. And again, like the same with the Bob Villain thing, you're just making them look cooler, and they just don't get this. So, but their handlers, all the people that they took AIPAC money from, are like, get out there, say something, do something. And that's what this is all about. And that extends even further into this bill because you saw absolutely zero pushback. And what was supposed to be pushback from the Democrats was like the most embarrassing shit you could ever imagine. The whole, Chuck Schumer, I said we can't call it the big beautiful bill anymore. I did that, guys. I did that. Like, that was literally, they put that out there as if it was some kind of, like, it's fucking laughable at this point, like, that they would do something that stupid. And then picture of Hakeem Jeffries standing there with a baseball bat, like it was like his like little league picture. Like, what the hell are you even trying to say at this point? So there is literally, if you are still riding with the Democrats or holding on to hope, like, this is your wake up call to get away from this party. Because they are not going to change these policies. They are not going to push back on this when the Democrats take over, because, all of the liberals out there, the semi-liberals, or the people who, started to wake up to this and go right back to it in 2026 and 2028 are going to make this very possible for people to put them into office, even potentially give them a supermajority, which they've had before, and nothing is going to change. They're not going to, fix the Roe versus Wade. They're going to stay the way it is. They're not going to challenge anything in this bill, which there are many, many challengeable things in this bill. Some of this stuff won't take effect, like the Medicare, Medicaid cuts, and some of the other things won't take effect until a few months or years from now, which gives it a pretty big window there for legal pushback on whether or not some of these things are legal or could be legal, or so there's a lot of question here. There's a lot of opening here for there to be challenged, but there won't be, and people do not understand that. They just get so desperate that they think like, okay, I can't believe the Democrats are doing this. They're horrible. They're not helping. They didn't help last time. Biden opened the doors to this genocide. He didn't even uninstall people that Trump had installed. They didn't take away the Trump tax breaks. They didn't do this, that, or the other thing. They just coasted through and made money for themselves in and out, right? Okay, I see that now. Well, come 2026, 2028, these people are going to be like, get stars in their eyes for the Democrats again, because the Democrats are going to come out, AOC and Bernie, and give some really inspiring speeches about this, that, the other. They're going to forget about the way that they've censured Mamdani, and they're going to forget about the way that they have done literally nothing to resist Trump Republican policy, anything like this. And then they're going to look at these people, particularly Gavin Newsom, like new Jesus. And that's what we're really headed towards. And there really is no way to fight that. And I'm not saying that if we are still as members of a broken system, are not stuck in having to in some ways participate within it, but I am already angry at what hasn't happened, because I know this has happened. Look at the way that it happened with Biden and Harris, where suddenly they were put up on pedestals like they're just going to be the be all, the end all. They're going to descend from heaven in their beautiful golden robes, and they're going to fix everything. They're not going to fix anything, because Democrats also take AIPAC money. They take pharmaceutical money. They take tech money. They are in it for themselves. This is what happens when you have a corrupt government. That's what this is. And I've said before, I don't love the term end stage capitalism, because that implies we are at the end. This could go on for generations. It's gone on for 40 years, the decline. Even more so if you count back to Nixon, where things were, blowing a president's head off in a parade, and then ending up where like Nixon gets to pretty much have like carte blanche of the country. One of the stupidest, most incapable people that could have been installed into that position, just kind of to show like, hey, this is how it's going to go. So if you want to even go back that far, it has been the absolute downfall of America. Not to say it was ever a good place for anybody in the first place, except if maybe you were a white male. But we know now it is in free fall, But that could go on forever. It took like the Rome to like 500 years to fall, and people are always putting out tweets like, "Oh, was it this stupid when Rome fell?" Yes, it was, and that's all the empires. A hallmark of the empire is they start grabbing at all capital any possible way, and they start squeezing the citizens. They don't listen to them. It turns almost feudalistic. Governments get smaller. In the case of Rome, it was like different kingdoms, they would take people out and install other dum dums, and the people who were in charge were getting stupider and less capable and less functional. And I don't know, I just don't know. And that's exactly where we are now. It's just gone downhill, dumber, dumber, dumber. Like you see that in the movie Wall-E, like how everybody just gets more and more inept as the generations go on. So that's where we are now, and that's where this bill is. And this is people were clutching their pearls over this whole Project 2025 shit. That's what this is. Like they misdirected people to like the maximum so that they could pass this through, because it really just plays on what Trump did in his first term, which all kind of got interrupted with COVID, and puts us into this new situation. And we are in a little bit of uncharted territory, but if you look to history, you will see when governments are majorly overthrown or dissolve or empires break up. This is a hallmark of that. It's just something that usually takes a lot of force and a lot of cooperation between people who don't necessarily like each other but have the same ultimate goal, and to have a responsive government that represents them. And there are these different elements of things that really fall into play, and it's really like, oh, history repeating itself, because it really doesn't matter if it's as old as Rome or if it's a few hundred years ago, like in France or in Russia. When the empires fall, there are very similar hallmarks, and I would very much recommend looking into these things for your own interest. The same was true with the American Revolution, which is maybe another one of my solo episodes. I will get into a little bit more and give you guys kind of the highlights of that, to kind of see where how we're really repeating our own history. And typically, and it is typically not a set in stone thing, but empires tend to only last a couple of 250-ish years. So we're right there at that mark. And I think a lot of people around the world and a lot of people in America are rooting for the fall of America, because our system just doesn't work. We're the bullies of the world, and we are doing bad things all around the world and to our own people. I say we, but I mean our government, because it's not we. It's just that we are caught up in this situation. So we will see, obviously where that goes. But again, I don't love that term, in stage capitalism, because a lot of us are going to be involved in this for a very, very long time. And I for one, I'm usually an optimist about things, but I just really don't see this suddenly going well. And I'm very frustrated at the idea that Democrats are going to, or anybody, other Republicans, converts, centrists, whatever, it doesn't matter what the labels are, but people are going to get orange man bad so much in their heads, they're going to go for any idiot the Democrats put forward about anything. And they're going to support anything that they say. And right now, they're not going to be the saviors of anything. They're not going to even come out and be like, right now, all they would have to do would come out with the bare minimum and be like, okay, we're putting through universal health care. We're putting through caps on food costs. We're putting, just these very basic things that they could do, they won't do. And we're, the whole, like, why are they so austere? Why so much austerity from this party? Well, parties do flip-flop their intentions and their motivations over time. During and after the Civil War, the Democrats the parties were essentially flip-flopped, and Democrats were very vile, very bad, like basically what we would think of as where Republicans are. But Republicans then weren't that much better, but they were looked at as this grand old party, these saviors of things, these fixers of things, making our country better, this kind of thing, at the time. But if you look at that, like, the parties really kind of had flip-flopped priorities. Now that's where we're going to get to this Uniparty thing, is they really have the same set of priorities. They're getting the same money because that's allowed that way. And that's how, according to what Reagan did in his time of 40 years ago, made this, he greased the wheels for this to happen, for people to be able to buy themselves into government. And that's where we are. And that leads into, which I'm sure you all heard, good news, everybody. Good news. There's no Epstein client list, and he totally killed himself, and that's totally normal, and everything's fine. And so don't worry, and don't ask questions. It's totally cool. So that's where we are right now. So he went to jail for nothing. And Ghislaine Maxwell remains in jail for nothing. Even though in her trial, it was mentioned that she had her own little black book, as it were, of clientele, because that was her job and her position in the, I don't want to say organization, because it was essentially the two of them. And that would imply that it was like sort of like a business, but it was more like just like a transactional situation. Like, you pay to get to come to my island, you pay me offshore accounts, this, that, and the other, or maybe in favors, or maybe, just different, whatever. I have a feeling it depended differently on, who had what to offer. Because Jeffrey Epstein was already a billionaire. So it's like, oh, thanks for the $100,000. Like, okay, I buy it. But like, I feel like this was, had this continued to go on unchecked, had this continued to go on, this would have been in some way to gain power and prestige and become untouchable. But it seems as though it did not exactly come to that point. Now, there are some points people are making on Twitter, and I'll read a few of these to you because it is basically true. This is kind of a summary, but what we're really looking at is that okay, so these people went to jail for nothing. There's no client list. And if you're thinking that there's going to be some big like Excel spreadsheet of like services rendered, payment received, no. We're not using like Quicken for this, right? No, but as her as being the go-between, as being the handler, Maxwell would have had a document, and it very likely would not have been in any digital format whatsoever. And then obviously, if they were receiving literal physical payments, that would have been done in offshore accounts, things that weren't necessarily traceable. So there would not have been, let's say, like any kind of really digital footprint. These people were not amateurs here. And they were dealing with the upper echelon of society across the globe. So it wasn't, again, just your rich dickhead here or there necessarily. This was an kind of a web of trust. Like you probably had to do something, like almost like gang style. Like you had to do something to prove, like mafia style. Like you had to do something to prove that you could be trusted in this society, in this small circle where you get to come to the island, you get to use these young women any way that you see fit, or any way within the set of rules. And as they have testified to, and conveniently, the main voice, Virginia Defray, of this, had some very troubling incidences play out, where she, had to leave the country for Australia. She was being stalked and harassed. Then she got into a very serious car accident, and came out and said she only had weeks or days to live because her organs were damaged so poorly. This kind of played out for a few more months, and then she passed away. But then again, that was ruled suicide. But she had said many times, I will not kill myself. I will not kill myself. I will not do it. Will not happen, such and such and such. So essentially what we're looking here is when the FBI has come out here in the last couple of days to try to claim there's nothing, there's no one, nobody. This is very clearly a cover-up from this government, very poorly hatched cover-up. And whether it'll amount to anything, I'm doubtful. But especially if, if it's like they're expecting people to vote based on this kind of a thing. But there's basically nothing that can happen to Trump or the Trump organization that's so bad that he still won't have his vehement supporters or even lukewarm supporters. And at this point, Democrats in their professional form or in their supporters are basically still supporting him, whether they say they are or not, because they are supporting his policies. They are not pushing back. Your average citizen doesn't even have anything to say about it a lot of the time. So there really is no pushback when there very much is room to do so. There are legal precedents that aren't being taken advantage of. There's all kinds of things. So who is pulling the strings? What's going on? So, and this is part of this kind of thing also gets you asking the question of who really is in charge of what. Are we getting into like Illuminati territory? Is this conspiratorial? Or what really is it? Because if somebody this allegedly powerful can be taken down, who is a name namer, a potential name namer, and had an accomplice with like that was supposedly had some sort of literal form of lists, because you'd have to, like, you couldn't necessarily keep this all in your head. Maybe you could, maybe there are people who do it that way, whatever, and within organized crime. But just a couple of high points here is the night that which we already knew, which was bullshit, because so magically the night that he allegedly committed suicide in his jail cell, both cameras that were focused on his door malfunctioned. Both security guards had fallen asleep, right? He was taken off suicide watch just like a few days before this alleged, the event took place. Apparently, at this point, because of it being a thing, the bed sheets that he was allotted did not really have the tensile strength in which to hang yourself. So, which I guess is debatable. Maybe if you twist them up or something, we can argue that one all day. I'm just saying, like, these things, like, it's like these obvious things that no one is even bothering to deny or explain, because they the system at this point is so corrupt. Why should they don't owe anybody an explanation. Like, who's gonna fight for that explanation? Nobody. It's not like you or I or anybody watching or anybody in the world today has that can take on that level of power. So he apparently this guy is debatable. He say like he was going to name it, because that would have gotten him potentially. Whoops. I don't know if you can hear my voice. I'm going to reset my camera here. It looks like it's gone down. So, okay, am I back on? Anybody see me? Can someone give me a heads up in the chat if you can see me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Am I connected? See, we always have tech issues. We always are dealing with our tech issues. It's just more difficult when I'm by myself or one of us is on our own. So I'm hoping I'm back. I can see myself, so I think that it was just a brief cutout. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go on, and I think that everything is fine. But also, so cooperating, that would have been not just exposing, like I said, a few rich guys. That would have been exposing the upper echelon of society of the entire planet. At this point, we're talking about royal people. We're talking about well-known politicians. We're talking about actors known to the world. We're talking about public speakers. We're talking about billionaires. We're talking about, like, because he was a billionaire, so obviously he's going to be dealing with the billionaire class, and that would give him access to people, heads of state and things like that, around the world. People that we don't even necessarily know about, but some that we do. So to think that one person could take all of that on and would actually literally have the safety of the government protecting him is really kind of ludicrous. There was really no other place that this was going to go. What was the whole thing about Bondi saying that she had the client at her desk when they did that whole stupid "we got the empty binder" thing. Everybody knew those goddamn things were empty. All right. Trying to figure this out. So I apologize. We're all dealing with American internet. We know how things are. So I'm doing the best I can with this. So just hang in there with me. Because I think what I think it's doing is it's just kind of going in and out here a little bit. But kind of to conclude that topic, because we all know that it's bullshit, and you really don't need to hear it necessarily from me saying like, "Oh, bullshit, bullshit." You know it isn't. But the fact of it is the bigger picture here is just is a cover up, and it's just like a terrible job at being a cover up, because they literally admitted that like, okay, so who's lying? Who's now uncredible? If you had this on your desk, if if the court documents of Ghislaine Maxwell's trial said she did and have a physical copy of names, your proverbial little black book. So, but now suddenly all this is just like, no, not real. Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. He went to jail for no reason. She is in jail for no reason. And that's just the idiotic kind of things that we're looking at this point. And we do know that there have been some names named, and that does very blatantly, including photographic evidence, include Prince Andrew of the British royal family, as well. And that, if you don't know, that's Prince Charles's brother, who has always had issues with the press and bad behavior. So he's always been a disgrace to them, pretty much altogether. And then we also have people like Trump and Bill Clinton, who have been, names have been bandied around. Now, again, I will point out, Epstein had his own airline, services, and it is very, very common with people who own private jets or airlines to give rides to other people. When Taylor Swift took all the heat because of she saying, because she likes to ride that damn thing to the corner store. She'll ride her jet anywhere. But she's like, it wasn't just me. I was letting other people ride it. So that's pretty typical. So we did see a pretty extensive flight log list of famous names, including like Obama. But I really don't I'm not a fan of Obama at all. But there was a lot of people that that I would say like, I don't think these people, that's their steeds, right? I don't really think that these are the people that the droids that we're looking for here. When other people that we know have these reputations pretty out in the open, it's not like these, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump are new to the public or their antics. They've been out there accused again and again and again of and Prince Andrew of the things that they have done. So we don't have to. I was scrolling for another point, and I just passed by a picture of wonton. If you don't know the story of wonton, which I'm sure you do if you're on the internet, wonton is great. I just wanted to make sure I was hitting all of my points that I wanted to make. On that, because there's, this is the point that I am making, is this is all connected. All of these things add up to massive corruption, which we know. I mean, but in massive cover-ups, in massive transfers of money, in massive expenditures of wealth. We're always talking about them using, at this point, in an accelerated fashion, more to make money, and that is something that is not necessarily new, but was really, really accelerated in the Reagan era and so forth. Learning how to monetize from terrorism, essentially. So we have that as well. And in response to the bill and kind of to the things that are going on, another good news, guys. Elon Musk is saying he's going to create his own political party, which isn't right or left, but forward. Give me a motherfucking break. Like, all right, dude. Like, it's, like, okay, what we needed is another idiot party. Like, that's first of all. You would like, this is the dumbest possible scenario of trying to pay to make a party in a system that is broken and needs to go, and shows you that he's not serious whatsoever. Or he would have said, we got to fight this whole system at this point, because that's the way to go. We need to fight a new system, and he's got the money and the resources to help create a new system, which would nullify the old system if he was legitimately interested in doing that. But he's not, because he wants to establish himself in this scenario, in this situation. And that's why it's just, clown shoes. Like, it's ridiculous and stupid. So if you're, it's like, oh, I just built a brand new restaurant in the what, where the world is burning. Come on down, right? It makes literally no sense to have done this. It's not serious. The only thing that I will say about it is that he has the money to make a difference, so he could just continue to throw money at it. Other people who want to be in his orbit will do the same. He has no problem rousting other people for their support or what they can provide, this, that, or the other thing. And that's something that there really hasn't been before within this system. Is a self-supporting party, let's say. You have the libertarians, you have the green parties. Those are essentially grassroots efforts that are usually excluded because they really just don't have the reach or the resources or the ability to sustain. They cannot compete on the world stage with this uniparty scenario. But someone with this endless bankroll may be able to have some sort of an effect. I doubt it, but that's just new territory is the point that I'm making. Further on that would be that anything that really kind of ekes away at this broken system, whether it's smart or realistic or the dumbest thing you've ever heard of, anything that stresses an already broken system is going to ultimately be a good thing, even though I think this is just going to he's going to lose interest and move on. And like all things here, and if not, and that's what we were arguing. Not arguing like an argument, but like we were arguing the point that, like, was any of this back and forth between Musk and Trump when he left even real? Because the whole, they were just really doing WWE fantasy, because neither one really went through on any of their threats, because Elon says something to the effect of release the Epstein list, right? Which we know Donald Trump would be on. And then Trump's like, well, I'll pull your funding. Well, neither one happened. And if anyone could get a hold of an Epstein list or a copy or the words of, or somebody to say something, because presumably if there was something physical, it was found and it's been destroyed. But also, it's likely that there were copies made that people were working to do something, hoping to make something off of that, not necessarily for justice reasons, but so that if that was found, if she herself didn't destroy it, and that was found in some sort of evidentiary situation, search situation, that. But again, we wonder why was Epstein killed, but if she's got all the information, why is she still in prison and fine? And how is she the most important person in this organization as the handler, the go-between, yet the guy at the top is the one, like, and she's still like just fine or whatever? So that raises that question as well. But because of his opposition to the big beautiful bill, and because of his connections and what he could do, Musk made that threat. Whenever we didn't see anything come of it. We didn't see any of this stupid Starlink or SpaceX funding get pulled, any of this kind of stuff. That never happened. And they're still kind of bickering back and forth at each other and haphazardly trying to make this party, so the American Party, sudden, and trying to say that it's sideless. And it's like, okay, yeah, right. Like, oh yeah, I totally believe that you're not right or you're left, because you're still going to be really hard right. So, like, get the fuck out of here. I don't believe it for a second. Neither should any of you, is the point. So that was the response to either this whole fake bickering or what he planned to do all along, kind of get in there with Doge and learn from the inside, have people, big balls and whatnot, report to him about, here's what we're finding out, here's where the the numbers are, here's where the stats are, here's the names of people, here's potential weak points, mailing points, blah, blah, blah. Just information. If he went in there with some sort of quiet intention of collecting information that he could then funnel into his own political project, let's say, projects, people, however, who could employ, who he could use, again, blackmail weak points, different things like this, statistical information on actual people, actual information on the public, if then that would have kind of made more sense of what he was doing. But this, I don't think anybody has ever said about him that he's like actually smart or competent or knows what he's doing. He just has capital. So, and you just keep throwing money at things, like you'd be surprised at like what you can achieve just by that alone. So no, I don't take it seriously. I don't suggest that anyone take it seriously. If you start hearing crap and it comes together in some way and it doesn't fade out, at least right away, it's all lies. It's all bullshit. Don't think that it's going to be a solution to the red blue issue that we're facing. If you want to vote a third party, go vote Libertarian or Green. They're already there. They've been there a long time. If you've got your own capital and you want to contribute physically to something and do something and be part of something, there you have it. They already exist. If you want to play systematic politics, they're already there. He doesn't need your help. He's not going to offer you anything. He can't be president or even vice president. So he's trying to get as close as he can. But what you really just have is another billionaire-owned party. And it doesn't matter what you call it. And it doesn't matter if you try to say it's separate. It doesn't matter if you say it's the right way. It doesn't make any difference what the words are, who's saying what. It's just more of the same. So nobody needed that. That's not something that any of us actually needed to have. And that kind of leads us into... doing a lot of talking here. That leads us into maybe what is the most egregious of these Trump doings as of now, which is the alligator Alcatraz scenario. And let me check in here with the chat really quick. Yeah, thanks for letting me know that I'm back and I'm just sitting here talking. And that Ari Time Traveler 2 says they agree. Some people are just hitching a ride, and that is what's going on, I think, with Musk. He is just trying to establish some kind of foothold, and he has no real platform or personality or offers to people the very easiest, fastest way to win people over, which I've been saying about him for a long time, is literally send people money. You have all their information now. Send them some money. They'll do whatever you want. Send them some money. Or promise healthcare, or just like the bare minimum. Like, just say, here, have some healthcare and weed. Yeah, your problems are over. Groceries are capped, and we'll make more jobs or something, or UBI in my party. There are so many easy things to win people over because we now have this stupid thing in our lives, which is the cost of living. There should be no cost associated with being alive. None of us chose to be here. None of us chose to be in this stupid situation. Some of us made bad choices that allowed bad people to do it, but it was going to happen anyway. And the people that are like, Harris could be our president, this wouldn't be happening. This 100% would be happening. It would just be happening with different language. They literally, paraded around police and sheriffs and shit at the DNC. She fully said she was going to continue the Biden policies in Gaza. She said that she was going to continue doing these horrible things, and people were like, oh, I love you so much. She said it. She literally said it. In between the word salad that she always puts out there, she was saying, hey, blah blah blah, haha, inappropriate laughter, afternoon drinking lunch, I'm gonna continue to kill Gaza. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't hidden from anybody. And a lot of the things that people get mad at Trump about in Republicans is they do the shit right out in the open, whereas Democrats do it behind your back. And that, because that allows these people to go back to brunch and forget all about it and not have to think about it, because Biden took so little heat for his role and just opening the coffers to Israel. We're talking about weapons stashes, money, funds paying for Iron Dome, getting Congress to pay for the stupid, which failed, by the way, and it was so satisfying. So where'd that money go? And again, the Israelis, they've got free healthcare, they've got free education. Some of them don't even have to have work because they just, are able to just get, like, trickle down economics somehow actually works when you're in this tiny society somehow. So I can't explain, all of it because a lot of it's very secretive, and we don't tend to hear about this stuff because they don't want us to know about these things. So we are yeah, chat, yeah. That's what really makes us puts us into this situation, is we're not supposed to know this. We're supposed to not realize that we're sending, and it was the same with Ukraine, sending the money to pay their pensions and to buy out all their grain, obviously, to make them dependent on us. That's what USAID is all about. But continuing those kind of policies in order to try to aggress against Russia, trying to figure out some way to get China, to poke the bear long enough to get China to respond in some way. Continuing the slaughter of the Gazans, and just thing after thing after thing. And that, as we pointed out on the show, there are only so many billionaire corporations, there are only so many billionaires, there's only so many donors, and they all donate to the same people. So if you think that, and you can even look at like APAC Tracker and things like that, Blue is taking money from pharmaceuticals, from tech, to do their bidding and playing the long game. And Red is taking the same money from the same people. They have enough money to spread it across people so that no matter who becomes in power at any point, they will do their bidding. So don't expect that things are just going to magically turn around because you're so tired and you can't stand it anymore. The thing that is going to change, which, I mean, I guess you might say that Musk is trying to make this argument, is change. Change is change. Okay, so that's where we end up here. And I started to say, and I got distracted because I was reading in the chat. So if you want to follow that up, okay, follow it up. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But the thing of it is that there's, it's a mess. The whole thing is just an absolute through and through mess. And you can't just keep adding more mess to it and expect it to work itself out. That's just it. You can't vote your way out. You can't end this kind of corruption, because the corruption isn't just red colored corruption. It is across the board. It is all of them. If they are in this position in which to enrich themselves and turn themselves into internet celebrities, which is really the only goal at this point, because it's not like they do any kind of fundamental work or a job, so and they don't care about, Democrats don't care about looking stupid. They don't care about people not talking about dissolve the party, dim exodus, all this kind of stuff. They don't care, because these things, they consider these things untouchable. They consider them that, like, they will never be able to be broken, that the system will always function and serve itself, and nobody can do anything, nothing could ever be done. So that's how things get done. And is it going to take 500 years? Maybe. But, that's where we got to get to a lot more unity among people, which I'm going to get to in 1 second. But I did want to make a mention of now we are, in this administration, Trump 2.0, really hit the ground running with all the things that he wasn't able to pull off in the first time through. And a lot of this has just been really egregious shit, like, the ICE raids, which once again, he still could never meet the numbers that Obama and Biden did in terms of deportation. Again, that was just done quietly and politely so that you wouldn't notice and you just keep drinking your mimosa. So this is done out in the open and done aggressively so people notice, because they don't care if you see them as a villain. They see that as strength. They see that as being the heel. They see that as, like, you admire the bad guy and you're scared of the bad guy and we'll do it and we're tough, and that's why it's all in your face. It's nonsense. And that's why this whole idiocy thing of the alligator Alcatraz happening, which is alligator Auschwitz essentially, and it's just a bunch of tents in a swamp that's already flooded. It's nonsense. But if you think that's the first one, you're crazy. And they're all along the border already. These are concentration camps where these people are rounded up and put into places, if not shipped to other countries, as we've seen. And then these ICE agents with their faces covered and things like this to try to hide their identities. That is, textbook tyranny tactics. This is not this is not to history anything new or unusual, but this movement is going to grow because, especially in this country, this is a continuation of the oppression tactics that have always taken place, whether it was Native American genocide and land grabbing, whether it was the slavery, literal slavery, whether it was the lynching of black and Mexican people, the forced sterilization of Mexican women. There have been times in history where migrant workers have been just as terrorized, rounded up and got rid of at different times, and or treated badly or killed, or forced sterilization on them. This is American policy through and through. This is typical. The photos of, like, with the Haitian immigrants who were being attacked, and there's all these things that are very, very typical. So when people are out here saying, like, we now have a federal police force, we always have had that federal support. This has always been supported. The KKK, which is basically nothing now, but when it was, that was comprised of many politicians across the board, fully sanctioned by basically everywhere that it was, allowed to do anything that they wanted to do with like no consequence whatsoever. So don't think that this is the first time that Americans have done this. This is America. This is what it is. This is Jim Crow. This is the terrorization of migrant workers. This is just more and more of the same. It's all just going to keep taking different shapes. This is slavery. And again, something I point out quite a bit, and I will continue to point out, is that we are in a situation at this point where it's we're continually seeing poverty being forced on society. Yeah, and we're taking away jobs. We're refusing to raise the minimum wage. Inflation out of control. People can't afford to live. People can't afford food. Housing crisis, food crisis. This, all this. This amounts to forcing people into poverty, which could essentially force them into doing some sort of crimes. That would put them into the prison system, or make them homeless, which is also continually being criminalized, and putting them into these situations where these people who are just trying to survive are now considered criminals. You put them in the for-profit prison system. Prisons are going up all the time, and they're for-profit, so that what you essentially have created is, and then these prisons then farm these out to the biggest corporations in America, all the products that you use, as free, or very, like, they're not getting paid, but essentially free labor. That is slavery. That is through and through slavery. And whether or not maybe they get a dime a day or something like that so they can try to justify it, but that is slavery. That is not only taking jobs away from people, that is empowering these corporations to use slavery to get further along, which was what the entire Civil War was about. It wasn't about race or just justification of treatment of people. It was about one half the country saying, stop making money off of people for free. Okay, then that you're making, that you're fucking the whole economy up. That's what that was about. It's happening again. And all of these policies, everything is going on to funnel people back into legal slavery, to say, well, it was legal. Well, slavery was legal. These things did happen under the auspice of law until the laws were changed, and we're right back to it. And this is making a generation of people, multiple generations, the future of the country. And now with this bill passing, huge amount of money being added to the national debt. So you're really just driving people down into a position of poverty, extreme poverty, and slavery, not doing anything for the infrastructure. I mean, compare America and China here. Okay, we're always going to bring up China on this show. China is the model of living, of state, of functionality, compared to what this is supposed to be. So this is why America is driving itself into the ground, and there are not enough people doing enough about it on the grassroots level. And I know you're all going to be like, oh, we can't, what are we supposed to do? And this is where I want to kind of get to and close here. because this is really important. And it's we want to do something. We want to be something. We don't have money to donate. We can't afford time off of work to go to a protest, which is stupid anyway. And don't do anything. And if you're allowed to protest, it's because the state is allowing you to. So don't forget that. And if you protest with violence, then we get more cop cities. So don't forget that, which got more and more money. And we live in a tyrannical state at this point. But don't think that the Democrats would have done it any differently, or will just you think what next? When President Newsom's going to dismantle ICE or take that budget away? I don't fucking think so. That's not going to happen. These very minimum things could be happening in tandem with this to distract people away from that, but they don't even offer you that. So that being said, we know if you consider yourself to be in the left space, well, it doesn't matter what you call yourself, but if you consider yourself to be in the left space, you're seeing left commentators, you're seeing other people who share their thoughts, whether or not they have their own programming or a popular blog or whatever. But if you consider yourself in the left space, then you recognize and have been able to recognize that leftists are at each other's throats all of the time. It could be for little things. It could be for big things. Everybody's a grifter. Everybody's a thief. Everybody has bad politics. Everybody's a fraud. Everybody's a fake. Everybody is always pointing the finger at everybody else all the time about everything. And that is why there is no leadership among the left, and we are getting nowhere, and we're unable to do anything. And that is also why there is so hard to infiltrate the left, all of the federal government, because first of all, it's too much to know. They don't they're dumb, and they don't want to learn about anything about what's motivating these policies. They don't want to sit and read Lenin and Marx. They don't want to learn about these things, about where all this comes from. And everybody hates everybody all the time, because at this point, and I'm not saying, you need to love everybody all the time. That is not the message. And there are grifters, and there are frauds, and there are fakes, and there are people out there making literal billions of dollars streaming a bunch of bullshit, going on CNN and whatnot. And okay. But at the same time, you got to look at this as the only way through a big problem, which historically is the case. You think like in the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution, everybody agreed with everybody about what kind of pizza that they liked, or what my favorite ice cream flavor. Give me a break. You're all going to be different in your opinions. It's the big things that matter. It's the uniting among each other that matter. And one major problem, and actually that documentary I was referring to with Chris Smalls earlier, I can't recall the name of it, but you can easily Google that. Points this out very, very well. He was obviously the head of the organization of trying to organize another union vote at another location. Everyone around him wanted to be boss. It was very plain. He would put people in charge of I need you to handle this, I need you to handle this, just like any structured organization would have, no matter what it is. But every single person was always like, my feelings, you're not hearing me, hold space, we've got to do it this way, I can't do it your way, no, your way is wrong. Bullshit, shut up. Okay, seriously, shut the fuck up. I'm so tired of the infighting, because it's completely fucking useless. Okay, completely useless. We don't have to agree on everything. We can think other ones of us are idiots and talk about it oh my God, did you see that video? That was so fucking stupid. You're allowed to think I'm really fucking stupid. I don't care, and I shouldn't care. And that's not the point. If you believe in the shit that I'm saying, and when Jared's here, him too, if you believe in the shit that we are saying, when you see these videos and they make sense to you, and you can see a bigger picture, then that is where our union points are. If you believe that people should have rights, or if you should have maybe food sometimes, then that is where our union points are. So don't everybody be out here trying to be number one. Don't everybody think that you're going to be Hassan Piker, because who made billions of dollars off of this shit, because he just gamed the system somehow. You're not going to. It's not going to happen. There's no money in the left. That is the fucking point. We are people who have been disenfranchised for so long that we are completely out of money, out of funds, out of resources, out of people in our life a lot of the time, because a lot of people, will be like, oh, you're gross, you communism. Oh no, I don't even know what that is, but it sounds bad. So how many people have you had to part ways with in your life? We are all out here on an island, right? And nobody is agreeing with anybody on anything. But if you do agree on the main points, then that is where we unite. So I'm really, really tired of this infighting bullshit, of the name calling, of the finger pointing, of the everybody has to get their participation award. That is a right-wing talking point, but it's fucking true when you look at the way that the left treats each other, because they are sitting there constantly wanting to get gold stars for whatever. They're wanting attention. They're wanting money. They're wanting sponsorships, because we all live really shitty lives, and wouldn't money fucking fix it? Yeah, it would. But if you actually genuinely believe in these things, then you need to connect wholeheartedly with other people who believe in these things. And you don't have to agree with them on every single point that they make. That is not the point. The point is work together for something bigger. Because if you look back in history, you're not going to find people who agreed with everybody on everything, even big things. But if you agree that things need to change, start there. And I'm not going to rant any further about this, because I will do it again on another thing. But if you agree that AI is taking our jobs, which it is, and it's ruining our life, and it's this bill now that states can't fuck with it for 10 years because, as a major win to the tech companies who's building shit everywhere that's poisoning people and ruining our lives completely and forced down your throat that you don't even want and you didn't ask for. If you believe that's a problem, align with other people who believe that's a problem. And, the same is true about cost of living. If you think that shouldn't exist, then align with other people who don't think that exists. If you want to argue about, what kind of who is a grifter and who is talking to who and who is allowed to talk to who and what are the rules, there are no fucking rules. Okay, we are past the point of there being fucking rules. Everything is dog shit, and if we don't work together to fix it, and if you don't put your bullshit shit aside, and if you don't think that you need to be number one, then look for some common ground here, because the behavior is fucking childish and I'm sick of it. So on that note, I think Jared's going to be back with us next week. I'll check in with him, and we will have more of whatever's going on. I think he's going to be back next week, maybe off the next week, but we'll clarify that with you a little bit more. You can follow us on. We're on all of the major sites, all of the major empirical locations: Twitter, Blue Sky. We're on Twitch. We're on We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch. And Rumble. You can find us all in those places, whichever one that you like the best. You can watch all of our old episodes on YouTube, all of our, and as well as Rumble. You can see live episodes on YouTube. You can see live episodes on Twitch. We put links up. We talk to people who want to talk to us. So reach out, coalesce, get together, make connections with people. Support people, whether it's us or someone else, but support people with your attention or sharing. If you like their stuff, even if it's not politically motivated, but if you know that there are independent artists out there that you enjoy the things that they make, share on your socials. Let other people know. Help them out to keep them going, because now we are coalition building. That's what this is about. We have got to take care of ourselves and each other by building something new. And that doesn't happen if everybody's bickering and fighting and wants to be the boss of everything all the time. So get involved locally, get involved in politics. Things are going to get a lot worse. If they're ever going to get better, they're going to get a lot worse first. So, help each other out in any way you can. If you can donate your time, donate your time. If you can donate money, donate money. There are food banks that are being strapped already. There are all of the animal shelters are overrun because all of the people that went and got animals during the pandemic couldn't afford them, took them back. So go put yourself out in that situation if you can. Marching in the street with a clever sign is nothing. Okay, so make a show if you need to make a show. Make some clever tweets, but get involved. Get involved on all levels of society. Support your neighbors, support your people, support art, support the policies you support. Get in there, do it. Do something that you could say, I did something. If they make a documentary, if some kids come up and make a documentary in 20 years about who did what and whom, do something that would get you involved in that, being interviewed for that. So with that, my voice is going and I'm going to go. So we will see you next week. I think the both of us, and be bringing you whatever fresh hell we have that going on that week. And okay, I just checked it. Okay. All right. I just wanted to check the chat before I go. So thank you, chat. Thank you for keeping me company, for the viewers this week. Appreciate you. Again, check out all where you can find us. Support. All right, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. Take care. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. It's the only way forward. No more bickering. Bye, guys.